Zootopia 2 has everything it needs to be an absolute blockbuster, and that only becomes more obvious the more we learn about its story. Can you imagine all the amazing things that could happen in Disney's latest sequel? Nick's dad. One of the coolest things about this movie is that it's bringing back a group of characters who were cut from the first Zootopia film, the Razorbacks, an elite police unit made up of wild boars who hunt down carnivorous animals that have lost control. One of these task force members actually shows up in the trailer when the police chief is talking about Gary. This makes it pretty clear that characters who were excluded from the first movie can definitely return in the sequel. And what if that also happens with one particular someone who could have made the movie way better just by showing up? We're talking about Mr. Wilde, Nick's dad. He was cut from the first Zootopia and was supposed to play a major role in Nick's backstory, which would have been explored in the original script. But since a lot of Nick's scenes were removed to focus more on Judy, it makes sense for the sequel to dig deeper into his past. Maybe Mr. Wilde even shows up in the present and reunites with his son after many years. You can totally picture them not having spoken in a long time. After all, Nick used to be a con artist, and that's not exactly something most dads are proud of. But now that Nick's a police officer who saved the city, they might finally reconnect. Pretty awesome, right? And that's just the first of 9 things that are going to happen in Zootopia 2. There are even clues that Nick and Judy might have a child together, and we're about to get into that. But first, settle in and get comfy. It's time for another Cinewave. A couple. It's been years since Nick and Judy's first adventure hit theaters, back in 2016, and ever since, fans have been hoping that a sequel would finally confirm what we've all suspected, that these two are more than just friends. Their chemistry is so strong, it's easy to see them as a couple. But the end of the first movie didn't really make it clear whether they were becoming romantically involved or just staying best buddies. Now we're about to get answers, and guess what? There's a good chance that Zootopia 2 will finally confirm they're dating. The first clue came from a scene in the trailer where the two are doing a kind of therapy session. When the images hit the internet, a lot of people thought it was couples therapy, but the trailer made it clear that it's more like partner counseling, probably because Judy and Nick had a disagreement that messed up some mission. Even though it's not directly about dating, you can tell exactly what the movie's creative team is doing here. They're making a clear analogy to the romantic relationship that fans have been dying to see, which could mean 2 things. Either it's just a joke, or it's a clever move to make us think they're still just friends and then surprise us with the truth. A baby. Before you totally lose it wondering why we think Nick and Judy had a baby, well, it's because of a clue we spotted in one of the trailer scenes. During a car chase, Nick is wearing a shirt that literally says Papa Fox. That's not exactly the kind of shirt a single guy would wear, right? And we can't really argue that he bought, or let's be real, stole it from some store in a rush without reading what it said. If it just said Papa or something random like Papa Panda, maybe you could explain it, but Papa Fox? That means the shirt was custom made for Nick. Combine that with the hints that he and Judy are dating, and it's easy to assume their relationship has gone farther than we expected, and they're gonna have a kid. Maybe Judy just found out she's pregnant, which could mean the movie shows their last big mission together before she takes time off work because of the pregnancy. Now the big question is, will their child be a fox or a bunny? And considering how rabbits usually have lots of babies, could they end up with more than just one? If you also want to see Nick and Judy become parents, drop a comment below with #babies. Bellwether returns. The first Zootopia shocked an entire generation with its plot twist involving Bellwether. We all thought she was just a shy little sheep, until it was revealed that she was actually the villain behind the whole conspiracy that Judy and Nick were trying to uncover. That's why it'll be tough for the new villain to be as iconic. Luckily, we already know Bellwether is coming back for the sequel, thanks to her appearance in the teaser, where she's wearing a prisoner's uniform. Yep, the little sheep is still locked up for the crime she committed. But if she's shown up in the teaser, that means her role in the movie won't just be some short, forgettable scene. Bellwether will probably have some impact on the plot. Maybe Nick and Judy will go to her for advice to help track down the new villain. But knowing how manipulative she is, she'll definitely find a way to trick them and break out of prison. That's a classic trope we've seen in a lot of crime thrillers, like the legendary Silence of the Lambs. And since Zootopia is basically a kid-friendly version of a cop movie, it would totally make sense for them to use this idea. Bellwether could even team up with the main villain, or stay hidden in the background and return as the antagonist in a potential Zootopia 3. The Razorbacks. Remember the Razorbacks? That elite police unit that was cut from the first movie but brought back for the sequel, like we mentioned earlier? Originally, they were going to hunt down out-of-control predators, but now that reptiles are taking center stage, their story might have changed. Maybe now they hunt reptiles, or something similar. So that probably means reptiles are facing major discrimination and are being treated like criminals, which makes sense, because the new mayor and other characters totally freak out when they run into Gary. If that's the case, the Razorbacks could end up being a serious threat to Nick and Judy, especially since all signs point to them teaming up with Gary at some point. Reptile City. While the first Zootopia explored the different ways predators and prey face discrimination, this new movie, based on everything we've seen, seems like it'll introduce reptiles as a new group that's also being judged, only way more harshly, since all mammals fear them, both prey and predators alike. No wonder there weren't any reptiles in the first movie, they don't even live in Zootopia. Nick even says it's been years since a snake set foot in the city, so where do they live? The answer could be in another city made only for reptiles, just like Zootopia is exclusively for mammals. One clue is that the teaser shows a chameleon appearing in the film, meaning Gary won't be the only reptile in this story. And what if the chameleon shows up because Gary takes Nick and Judy to his hometown? That would be awesome. Almost as awesome as you hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our daily videos about your favorite animated movies. You know what to do. Other cities. Following that same logic, we can imagine that the world of Zootopia is way bigger and more complex than anyone first thought. After all, if there's one city for mammals and another for reptiles, what's stopping there from being a city for every type of animal? Like a city for fish, another for birds, and if we go even further, maybe it's not just animals that are intelligent in this universe. What if there's a city full of plants that act like humans? Everyone would think that's totally nuts, but it would make this universe way more fun and interesting. And all of that could be explored in future films, which would turn Zootopia into a full-blown saga with tons of stories to tell. That actually fits Disney's current strategy of turning their hit movies into franchises with multiple sequels, just like they're doing with Moana, which looks like it's getting a third film, and the live-action Lilo and Stitch, which already has a confirmed sequel and probably won't stop there. Villain Therapist. Zootopia is full of hilarious characters, and the trailer for the sequel introduced a brand new one who's also super funny. Dr. Fuzzby, the psychologist who's giving therapy to Nick and Judy. She seems like she's just trying to help, but she ends up being pretty intrusive when analyzing her patients. But there's a chance she's not just funny, she might actually be a villain. After all, she kinda resembles Bellwether. They're both small, cute, seemingly harmless, and maybe secretly evil. No one would suspect her, and when we say no one, we're talking about casual viewers who just watch the movie without spending months coming up with fan theories. Even we, the fans who love to theorize, only started to suspect she might be the real villain because of how much she reminds us of Bellwether. And honestly, that's also exactly why so many fans don't believe she'll be the bad guy, because it would feel like a repeat of the plot twist from the first movie. But here's the thing, what if the movie is making it so obvious just to get the fans of the first Zootopia to rule out that theory completely? Then, when Fuzzby reveals she's evil, everyone will be like, no way, they actually did this again? Honestly, that would be kind of funny. Gary's brother. Among all the wild theories, there's one clear fact. Gary has some kind of connection to the film's main villain. That cloaked figure with a face hidden in shadows who appears in the teaser. If this villain isn't some undercover character like Dr. Fuzzby, then he must be a reptile. And if that's the case, there's a strong possibility that Gary is related to this bad guy, like he could be his brother. The details we know so far about the movie say the snake is searching for a book that the villain also wants to get his hands on. How would Gary even know about that item if he didn't have some kind of connection to the bad guy? He must have been someone the villain really trusted, but let's be honest, Gary doesn't exactly seem competent enough to have been the villain's right-hand man in the crime world. So the most likely answer? The snake is his brother or a close relative. That's it for this video, but that doesn't mean the fun has to stop here. Just click on one of the 2 videos on your screen to keep hanging out with us. Thanks, and see you next time!